marriage options. So this is a new podcast. This is looking at why did Parliament, want her to marry so desperately in the early part of her reign, and also who were the three suitors really that she could possibly have married. Well, we've discussed it before, but Parliament absolutely believed that there should not just be a single female ruler. It never happened before, and they certainly didn't think this should be the time to try it out. So, they thought Mary I's reign had been weak, although she had got married, and they wanted Elizabeth to marry somebody who was strong, who obviously could bring, sort of stability to England and things. So they were pressuring her when she was 25, when she got to the throne, to try and get married and have a child to secure a throne. And to be quite honest, Cecil was only doing that for her own good. He only ever advised her if he thought something was necessary. So what happens with marriage then? Well, Parliament keep telling her that she needs to marry, and she gets really annoyed with Parliament, and often sometimes banishes the odd person to the Tower for telling her that she has to marry, because she obviously puts forward the argument she can't possibly marry with the whole thing that's happening, with the Catholics and the Protestants and things. Who would she marry? Now, Parliament also were a bit concerned when they saw the sort of people who were suitors to her. So King Philip II of Spain was obviously interested in marrying her, and he tried to sort of get involved with her before even Mary I had died, which was terrible because poor Mary wasn't even on a deathbed at that point, and he was getting a Spanish ambassador to make overtures to Elizabeth I. So Elizabeth was absolutely politically astute and unbelievably intelligent. She knew he only wanted to marry her for the simple reason he still wanted to be King of England. That is the only reason he was interested in marrying her. So, because she didn't want to make an enemy of Spain to start with, she says, she'll think about it, she keeps on holding on, maybe she will, but obviously, her sister wasn't dead, and she'd need time to come to terms with all these things and things like that. And ultimately, in the end, she kept him hanging on, but that was good because it gave England more time and for her to establish herself on the throne. She obviously had no intention, though, of marrying King Philip II because of the way he treated her sister, and also he was the strongest Catholic that existed in the world. Now, another person who was interested in marrying Elizabeth was the Duke of Anjou. Now, he was a strong Catholic, so that would have caused problems. And yes, okay, marrying him would have made an alliance with France, and that might have been a good thing. Like marrying Spain would have made an alliance with them. But she was worried about losing control over England if she married him. And to be quite honest, the reason why she was so perturbed about doing that is when he was proposing marriage to her, she was 46 years old, and she thought, really, am I going to have a child now? No, it's highly unlikely. So what she decided to do was she obviously declined his marriage proposal because she was concerned that if she died, when obviously she was married to him, because he was a lot younger than she was, nearly 20 years younger, then France would take over England. So she wasn't interested in marrying him in the end either. And one of the saddest things that happened in Elizabeth's reign, and I genuinely do believe this, and we've talked about it quite a lot in class, is she was in love with somebody called Robert Dudley, who was an English nobleman. Now, they'd been friends since childhood, and she felt she could really trust him, and she trusted him until the end of her reign. She really, really did, and was obviously devastated when he ended up dying in 1588, so just after the Spanish Armada. So what happened was obviously, as I've mentioned before, Elizabeth really should be getting married quite soon when she comes in as queen, because when she was 29, she nearly died of smallpox. And obviously she knew Robert Dudley, but unfortunately Robert Dudley was married. And in those days, there was no way that he could, sort of divorce his wife and then marry Elizabeth I. The scandal would have been too much, and it wasn't allowed anyway. A monarch wasn't allowed to marry somebody who'd been divorced. So what happened then? Well, although at times it did look like possibly, that they would marry, and they certainly were in love, I think, both of them, the problem Elizabeth had was she would make other families, other English noble families, jealous. So what did she decide to do? Well, she hadn't really decided, to be quite honest, not to marry Robert Dudley. But most historians believe that Cecil and Walsingham, as part of a plan, tried to do something so that Elizabeth would not lose a throne over trying to marry Robert Dudley, because people believe that actually, would happen. No one can definitely prove this, but Amy Rosebart, who was basically the wife of Robert Dudley, was mysteriously found with a neck broken at the bottom of the stairs. Now, no one could prove that Robert Dudley had done that, but as soon as it was sort of found out that his wife had been mysteriously killed, if you like, most people pointed the finger at Robert Dudley. And if Elizabeth had then decided to marry him after the wife had died, she'd have incriminated herself. It'd look like she plotted to have the wife murdered so she could marry Robert Dudley. It's probably been Walsingham, and Cecil may have had some hand in it as well, but they were only actually doing it for her own good. You can always put that into your exam, that's absolutely fine. It's never been proved, it never will be proved. They obviously wouldn't have done it themselves, they'd have got somebody else to do it. But then she could never marry Robert Dudley. Never. Even though she kept him close to her for the rest of her reign. And so that we're clear, Robert Dudley is also known as the Earl of Leicester, just in case you hear that as well.